Welcome everyone to a new episode of Fusion Talks, and today my special guest is Myra Adnan Malik. Some professionals build careers, others build momentum. Today's guest, Myra Malik, has done both, driving climate strategy from factory floor to global boardrooms. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
With nearly a decade of experience in the FMCG sector, she helped shape decarbonization roadmaps, led renewable energy initiatives, and embed sustainability deep into global manufacturing operations. Certified in greenhouse gas accounting and sustainability management, Myra combines sharp data instincts with the heart of storyteller. She's not just an engineer, she's a force for culture shift, advocacy, and purpose-led performance. If you care about how technical talent can power climate impact, especially in the heart of operations, this talk is a masterclass. Hi again, Myra.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you.
So we'd like to delve first in sustainability from the factory floor. And I like that we're bringing this angle as a fresh, from the lenses of someone in your capacity in Fusion Talks. And we want to really address how real change starts on the ground. What was your first big sustainability breakthrough on the ground?
So actually, I was lucky enough that my first project was my first big sustainability breakthrough. It involved a solar PV installation, and it was over 20,000 solar PV panels. So the scale was quite big. And I was the only female engineer on the project. I got the opportunity, was super grateful for it. And it was a huge impact. It allowed the facility to have 80%, almost over 80% of its electricity needs. And it's just a field that I'm very passionate about, at least one of the topics, which is renewable energy technology.
I love this. And it's wonderful opportunity to really, jump directly in the bullseye of something that huge and that impactful.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
How do engineers and site teams react to climate goals? Like, what works in engaging them?
So the good news is that I've actually noticed everybody is really engaged when it comes to climate action. People are actually on the ball. They understand it. They realize that it's important. And one thing that I realized can engage them, not just site teams, I think it could engage anybody, really, are two things. First and foremost, you need to bring the relevance of an initiative or any climate goal, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same planet. We're living and breathing in the same air.
Exactly.
And that's what you have to do. Sometimes not at a huge scale. Sometimes you need to bring the relevance down to a local scale, maybe something more relatable depending on the person that you're talking to. And if you're talking to an engineer, it might be bringing it back to a technical solution. If you're talking to somebody else who's not necessarily interested in the technical aspects of things, then it could be something more personal, talking about drought in a country that they live in, or flooding, any kind of disasters that come because of climate change. And then the second thing really is when you help site teams specifically understand that climate action actually is an opportunity to bring operational efficiency on the ground.
Absolutely. It is directly tapping into what can benefit the business, but also it is deeply associated now with core values of most of us,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So it strikes a chord and double-edged.
Yes.
How can operational efficiency unlock environmental wins?
So a lot of the time, sustainability initiatives or projects come at a cost. You need to put the money down
to
for
finance
it.
them. Sure.
Exactly. Now, when you have such operational efficiencies, they most probably, almost all the time, bring you savings. So when you have this reduction in your operational expense, you need to make sure that those funds are fed into the sustainability fund.
Reinvested.
Exactly. And that's what is really key. It's really important to make sure that fund is fed through those operational efficiency gains.
And the operational efficiency mindset It as well steers, the direction to innovate.
Yes, exactly. Operational efficiency, a lot of people might think it's just about, let me run this machine at its most optimal level. No, but there's also an element of being a little bit more creative. You may have been making something a certain way for the past 10, 15 years, but there's no reason you don't have to rethink how it's done or think about new ways to do it. The same way, there may have been a time that no one would have thought you can get electricity from the sun or from wind.
Exactly.
And you're doing it now. So it's just about having this mindset change as well.
It stimulates the thinking in a different paradigm that adds a lot of value to the business and the environment. So scaling sustainability across borders from one region in Myra leap to 300 sites worldwide. And this is magnificent. Again, how do you adapt strategies for different regions and cultures?
Mm-hmm. The most important thing is to focus on the why. The why is where you give direction to all of these sites, maybe, depending on your strategy. And then you also need to understand that there's an element of how, and that's where you need to give flexibility to people. So the how is, how are we going to locally apply a certain project, or the local context is very important. So to be successful in having these strategies go out, to align them everywhere, is that you need to provide, one, a certain level of direction. That's how you tell them the why. And then you need to provide that certain flexibility. And that's on the how. That's where you invite their collaboration and their idea sharing.
Yeah, so globally, it is the overarching direction.
Exactly.
And it weaves everyone behind one goal.
Exactly.
For sure, the local context, it is how they adapt and find solutions that are meaningful to the geography and to the factory.
Yeah, and at the end of the day,
specificities.
Yes, and at the end of the day, the strategy may be one thing, but how you're going to adapt your strategy to your local context, that's important. And that's where people on the ground need to be involved. It's not just something that needs to be top down.
And this helps as well to contribute to so many ideations and variety of solutions that can be cross-pollinated.
Exactly. Creativity is very important in sustainability.
Or copied with pride from regions that are similar.
Exactly.
What does global alignment look like in practice?
Well, I'm afraid the answer is not super sexy. Honestly, it is about a lot of communication and a lot of dialogue. So that may be through webinars, that may be through meetings, that may be through regular check-ins with teams all over the world. But that's super, super important. People sometimes forget the impact of people being informed. People need to know a certain level of direction, and they need to know that you're there to support them when it comes to actually thinking about plans and projects on the ground.
Yeah, communication, it is what glues everyone.
Exactly.
And gives you the reason to believe.
Exactly.
And I believe you're doing this role together definitely with other colleagues in order to share the rallying cry and keep them motivated behind this ultimate goal.
It's very important.
And it's not easy because you're overlooking various cultures.
Yeah.
So what are your top lessons from working across 5 continents?
Well, I can think of 3. First and foremost, you need to be flexible. And I mean that not only in terms of your mindset or your train of thought shouldn't be so rigid. And also I mean it in terms of your availability. I mean, you're working with people all over the world, and there needs to be a certain kind of respect for time, so flexibility in thought and in availability. The second is, it's important to remember that you're all working towards this shared goal. That's super, super important. You may have different ways of achieving something, but at the end of the day, the achievement is the same, and we're all working towards the same objectives. The third is something that is kind of simple, quite simple, but it is about being a citizen of the world. And what I mean by that is something very simple, like knowing how to say good morning, good afternoon, or thank you in the language of the person.
Nuance.
Exactly. Learning something like that and incorporating into the discussions that you have, especially because communication is so important, can really make a world of a difference. You're allowing yourself to be more easily relatable, and you're putting that little bit of extra effort to understand the person that you're speaking to.
Relatable, accessible, meaningful. and a touch of personalization. This is the
Exactly.
human element.
Exactly. It's very important to keep that human element, regardless of strategies, directions, projects, plans, things like that. At the end of the day, it's a human talking to another human, and all of you are trying to have a shared space that will be the same way it is now, years from now. So,
And building rapport.
yeah.
How many times, you feel it when you have this rapport, the energy behind achieving something becomes on a different
That's
level.
true, yes.
Even the productivity.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So it's very important now then, from moving from culture to communication, aligning behind as well the why, the how, to understand how data has the power to become, decisions that are founded on real insights. So what role has data played in advancing your sustainability journey?
Well, first and foremost, what's important about data is that it gives you insights. And you have over thousands of languages all over the world. But when it comes to numbers may speak the same no matter where you are in the world. So that's a really important element of data. It gives you insights. And the second thing is that it can drive decision making for you, and it gives meaning to what you do. So sometimes it's important to understand the impact of a certain project. And that's why the data to understand where you should go, and then the data to understand how good or how significant was your impact, they're both super, super important, equally as important.
And are there enough tools that help you to derive this data from all touch points?
There are a lot of tools today. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. And what I've noticed is that collaboration, networking, understand that everyone in a certain, community, be it, society related, climate related, we're all trying to achieve the same things. So having this kind of
reflection even on the data, crunching
exactly. So having this kind of collaboration to understand what kind of tools are also available. Sometimes we don't know about the tools that are available today. So I do see room for improvement with working with some of the tools.
Yeah, I was wondering as well, like, it's very true, there's a lot of data, and collaboration helps to learn how we interpret as well data from various angles. And when it comes to tools, we might not be in the same journey of how well versed we are in utilizing it and maximizing, the capability of deriving this data.
Very true.
And then sustainability complexity is built in. So
that's true. Data really does. It's not your enemy. Sometimes people look at it as,
overwhelming.
That's the perfect word. It can be overwhelming, but it's important to see that there's meaning behind these numbers. There's action that you can take from these numbers, and this data is trying to drive you in certain directions, and that's how you should really look at it. It's not just a numbers game. It's not just a boring analytical exercise.
Exactly. And by the way, it's not the data is important across the whole value chain. So from the factory floor, it's a launchpad to everywhere, even comms. To avoid greenwashing, we need the right facts, evidences powered by data.
Exactly.
So how do you balance rigor with accessibility in reporting and diagnostics?
Well, with any data collection system or even data consolidation system, so be it automated, be it manual, it's super important that there's a verification process in place. Because considering that with sustainability, this data is meant to drive decisions, this data needs to be extremely reliable. There should be no room for question. There should be no room to think, oh, I don't trust this figure. Is it really going to lead me in the right direction? So we really need to make sure that it's verified and it's reliable.
Integrity.
Integrity. The integrity of the data should be very strong. And the second thing is that this data needs to be easily understandable. So perhaps portrayed through visual dashboards. It needs to be user-friendly. The same way an operating software on your phone, it makes a very big difference to the experience of the phone usage. So it needs to be easily understandable, but it also should not be ambiguous. It's important to understand that the users of this data will be completely different, could be from different parts of an organization, and may have different backgrounds. So the data needs to say the same thing to everyone, but it could encourage different action. So that's why the what the data is saying is important. And then equally as important, the different individuals that look at that data that want to drive action, that's also important. And it can be very, very varied.
And I liked what you said regarding the visualization side, and sometimes the analogies to make sense out of it.
Exactly.
Like when you say you have deployed the solar panels, so it was like equivalent to how many cars uplifted
exactly, yes,
from the roads.
The numbers need to speak to everybody. So it's sometimes engineers have a habit of maybe getting very, very technical. But it is very important to have a story that you can tell and have the facts and figures to back it up.
The power of data, it is such an illumination. And moving from the power of data to the power of storytelling and ESG. Why communication can be more powerful than compliance. And this is really an amazing tagline, and we want to as well try to understand it from your experience as being known as a strong storyteller. How did that become a strength in your work?
I think it helped, or I see that it helped give meaning to the work that I do. So the story, the ability to tell these stories, having it backed by fact and figures, really helped people relate to what I do and understand what I do and see its impact
and appreciate.
Right? Yes, yes, hopefully, yes. And that's why I see that there should be this balance. There should be that balance between knowing all of the facts and figures behind something and then being able to translate it based on your audience, right? And that's also what encourages people, and that's also what motivates people. It's not always about sitting there with the technical data sheets and talking about, the very, very
electricity,
exactly,
and the carbon emissions,
exactly,
and the water safety.
Exactly. Engagement is important in this frame of ESG, in the frame of sustainability. Engagement is very important, and I've noticed that stakeholders in sustainability can really vary from very technical people really on the ground, to board members. And so there has to be this ability. I feel like storytelling really frames everyone or threads everyone together, because it's the same information that you can give at the bulk of the story or the meaning of the story is the same, and you're able to translate it and it's able to be understood by everybody along this thread.
How it's sensitized.
Yes.
Lovely. I would love to hear which campaign, for example, or narrative you are proud of crafting, something that you've done. And
So actually, with this question, it takes me a little bit into my my work with a Women in Engineering committee, which I've been a part of since university. And one of the campaigns that is really close to my heart was for the celebration of International Women in Engineering Day. That's on the 23rd of June every year. So it was this week.
Yeah.
So one of the campaigns was when I was working for a local women in engineering community. We had a celebration on this International Women in Engineering Day where we gifted hampers to some of our female engineers. Actually, to all of our female engineers.
Yeah.
Where we were quite widespread. But each local team took this initiative to recognize the female engineers in their team. And it was so rewarding to see that something relatively simple can really make such a big difference. And it doesn't only apply to women in engineering because it's a committee. It applies to everyone. It applies to people.
Recognition.
Exactly. So the reason this was so close to my heart, and because it resonated with me, is because it reminds you of the importance of your people. And they're really behind solutions, they're behind data, they're behind storytelling. So it's important to recognize them, and it's important to understand that there are people behind all of these solutions and behind anything that we do.
Yeah, yeah. Innovation, data, solutions. We should always not only remember the role, but value the human being behind the scenes,
Exactly.
and that is a holistic human being.
Yes, you couldn't have said it better.
Full of emotions, feelings,
Exactly.
internal battles.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would like to pivot to STEM, since already we're talking about women in engineering. And salutes to you and to all women in the next generation. And I love the saying that we have always to be considerate in lifting others while we are leading. How has your journey in engineering shaped your leadership today?
So, in engineering, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of numbers, and they're important. And what I've realized when it comes to leading people, leading teams, even influencing without authority necessarily, because it could be across cultures, across continents, it's important as an engineer especially to remember, and I touched on it already, that there are people behind these numbers. So this kind of empathy that you can develop, it's almost a double-edged sword. You know that there's an importance with the data, but you should also remember there's people behind this data. It's not just about the X number of employees working on a certain project. There's people on the ground, and that's really, really important when it comes to leading teams. It's really important in leadership, the recognition, equally as important. And this empathy that everybody is on a different journey, everybody has their own things going on, their own thoughts. I believe that's extremely important in leadership.
Yeah, it is the center stage. What advice do you have for young women entering STEM?
I want everyone, all women in STEM, actually could apply to everybody as well. Be very loud about your passion. Be extremely loud about your passion. Don't be afraid, because especially in the world today where things are evolving quite fast, there's a position or a job or something that may not exist today that you might be passionate about, and it may come to you. So don't be afraid of really being vocal about where you see yourself and what you're passionate about. And at the same time, this what I've noticed is the trend is, in the past, a lot of young girls may have joined a field or may have studied STEM because of a cultural norm, or it could have been some cultural pressure. I mean, I'm originally from Pakistan, and traditionally there was always this saying that when you have a son, he should be an engineer, and when you have a daughter, she should be a doctor.
We're categorized and classified.
Exactly. So it may have been like that in the past. I mean, I've been very blessed that my family has always given me opportunity to be anything and do anything. But I came back to engineering. I mean, I chose it. So what we're noticing is that a lot of the women who are getting into STEM now, they're getting into STEM because they want to be there. They have chosen to be there. They know the hardship. They know they're going to be a minority, but it's their passion. And I love that it speaks. I love that the fact that they choose to be in STEM speaks for their passion. And my advice is, don't let that fire die out. Keep that voice. Make sure you're vocal about where you want to be. And remember that there are so many others that are actually on the same journey. You may not realize it, but the power of networking, and that's also why I enjoy
and role modeling.
Exactly, and that's why I enjoy being a part of this community. The Women in Engineering team is a community, and it really helps to understand that you're not alone in this journey. So
I love it. Just chase your dreams. Yeah. Stay bold and be in alignment with what you love.
Yes.
And that's what will help you succeed and stand out.
Yes, exactly. If your work becomes your passion, you do not work a day in your life.
Exactly. It is you're orchestrating your hobby
exactly.
every day. How can companies, Myra, better support diversity in technical roles?
So the best thing is to make sure that roles are not rigid. So not to have a super strict and super defined job description, because it's important to let people bring themselves into the role. I mean, again, you're hiring a person. You're not only hiring a set of requirements, a set of skills. This person is bringing their own experience, their own set of skills. So what I've noticed that really ignites people, especially when it comes to roles in STEM or any technical roles, is give them the flexibility to be themselves. Let there be room for them to be creative. Let there be room for them to introduce what they would like to do in a particular role. I guarantee you they are going to deliver the 5 things that you need from them.
And go beyond.
And go beyond. As long as they can be themselves, as long as they can bring their individuality in it, you're going to get much more than you asked for.
And those advices, they apply to any role.
Exactly.
We should not accept to be boxed, and framed in only few bullet points on behaviors and functional skills.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's not just for women in STEM. It's not just for STEM. Everyone, almost in every field.
And this goes back to the relationship, the culture, the rapport, the empowerment, the trust that helps you to go above, beyond, and always embrace creativity.
Yes, it
brings
important.
Uniqueness.
Yes.
I'd love to move to the fire chat and the rapid fire closing questions with you, Myra. One word that defines Myra today.
Optimistic.
All right. And it comes with your smart signature. A sustainability buzzword you'd ban.
Eco-friendly. It's just so vague.
Exhausted.
I mean, how would you know it's friendly? I'm not going to go into it.
A project that gave you goosebumps.
The solar PV project, I must say.
The 20K.
I mean, the reason I mentioned the scale is because when I looked at it from a bird's eye view, from a building nearby, it just looks like an ocean. It's like shimmering and glittery, and people sometimes think I'm crazy. It's like, yeah, but they're just electronic parts. And I'm like,
my babies.
They're beautiful.
Your dream climate job outside corporate.
I think it would be a role that's kind of a combination of helping to develop strategy, but also being on ground where it matters. Also considering that it's not just environmental projects necessarily. I mean, there's a reason that there is this term ESG.
Yes.
It's a triangle. They really link to each other. So I'd love to work where you can really impact environmental projects, but society, and also, I mean, okay, governance is governance, but it's about the environment and equity. So a role that really helps me deliver on both, and possibly have an element of generating policies so that it's kind of like getting everybody everywhere on the same page.
Can't wait to see you shining in such roles. You have what it takes. ESG in one sentence.
It is more than just metrics. Short and sweet.
Yep. Can't agree more. So thank you, Myra. You've reminded us that engineering isn't just about solving problems. It's about designing futures. Your path from your renewable energy projects in Dubai to crafting global sustainability strategies proves that operation can be the heartbeat of climate action. Driven, analytical, deeply human in your approach, Myra, you showed us that the future of ESG leadership isn't just in policy rooms. It is in people like you who bridge data with purpose and strategy with soul. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was
Yasmin.
so delighted to have our talk today.
I had a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.